Hey guys, we're at Thai Massage Jam here in Austin. Adrian is on the mat, and I wanted to work on him a bit to see if I could help him. He says he sits at a desk all day, I think at a computer. So I was going to work on his low back a little bit while you guys watch. If you have any comments for me, feel free to write below. It's just going to be a little challenging for me to work over there and then be able to come over and read, so just give me a little bit of time if you ask questions. Hey Stephanie, it's good to see you. So again, just going to work on Adrian. If you have any questions or comments, just ask below. I'm happy to chat with you if you have questions that you would like answered, anything specific. Adrian, it's always your low back? Is it always down at your sacrum, or is it kind of down here as well? Right in here? Okay. And then how bad is it? Like 10's hospital, 0's no pain? No pain? Does it feel stiff? Tight? But does it cause any pain? What about your hands and arms? No. You do anything for exercise regularly, Adrian?
Yeah, a little bit of weightlifting.
Okay. Does that usually make you feel better?
Yeah.
Good. I have a little transdermal celebration. How's that there, Adrian? Feels good? Does it feel like it relieves some of that tightness you're talking about? Yeah. Okay. You doing like squats and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of core stabilization. If that gets to be too much, tell me, okay? And big in breath for me. And exhale. And again, big in breath. And exhale. Weeks and weeks. Couldn't even recall the name. Ooh, right there.
Oh, yeah.
Too much?
No, it's fine.
Just a little bit. A little tender there.
Yeah.
Oh, if you're interested in the table tie class coming up on the 17th and 18th of February at Lauderstein Conway Massage School, there are only about 6 spots left, and we still have over 2 weeks until class. So you want to go ahead and grab those. You can go to Lauderstein Conway's website to grab the remaining spots in that table tie class. That's probably going to be the only one until sometime in the fall, so you want to grab that. Too much or just right?
No, that's fine.
Yeah. And big in breath for me. Exhale. And again, big in breath. Exhale. Turn over your back for me. Does it already feel a little bit better?
Yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit of movement. You can take your phone out if you want.
Yeah.
That way if I roll you around, yeah, you just set it to the side. So if I'm doing a quick sort of abbreviated session, sometimes there's just a little bit more mobilization. The compressions aren't quite as deep. If I'm only going to work on it for like 30 minutes, I might throw in a compression or two, but I tend to just mobilize people if they're feeling, stiff or discomfort in their low back. So just little things like this little bit of traction and then lean in, real common to how I would work on someone. I feel like this is less aggressive. It allows somebody to relax and unwind. And then any of this sort of movement, any direction I choose to go, a little bit of twist. As I'm pulling on his leg, I'm really trying to feel what's going on in his lumbar spine as I bring him over. I'll also pay attention to his face. See if he's making any facial expressions while I do this. How's this, Adrian? Good? You can, Janice. Where do you live? You can, Barbara. Where do you live? Just have to get things set up so you guys can run a Thai massage jam in your area. Is it too much on your quad? Pretty good through there? Yeah. If I give you a little bit more on the quad right there, tell me how that feels. Good?
Yeah, feels good.
There we go. Near Chicago, it's perfect. Chicago is what?
San Michael.
It's got to be one of the 10 most populated areas in the U.S. Got to be, right?
San Michael.
Where are we sending you?
Chicago.
Oh, sure. Too bad you don't have a license in Chicago. Ooh.
I can do time
It's like I did an interview with Ben Brown, and he was like, if I ever get down to Texas, I'm like, yeah, because I can't legally work on you in New York. And he's like, ooh. Because when you cross those imaginary lines, shit. Let's see. State borders, imaginary lines, sun lines. Ooh.
But humans can be illegal.
Ooh.
Let's go political.
Humans can be illegal.
Illegal
Nice.
humans. Dreamers. No humans illegal.
And tell me, do you like this side just as much as the other? I want a little twist, a little movement there. Yeah. When I do that, do you feel it more in your leg or do you feel it in your back?
Feel it here.
More in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More in the back, yeah. But
And when I pull down
do
here, it
feel
doesn't hurt the leg or
It
anything?
doesn't hurt at all.
Yeah. And again.
That feels awesome.
Cool. There we go. Just to make sure it wasn't too much on your quad up here.
Yeah. Just putting the quad.
Yeah, just more isolation than it is like putting pressure
Yeah.
here. I was trying to arrange my feet so it was big and broad. It's more like I'm tractioning his hip and then mobilizing his lumbar spine than anything else.
Ew.
Too much?
No, it's just like hamstring, fucking.
This is also a real classic. I use this on almost every session.
Oh.
This little toss in the gluteals. If you'll look at Adrian, you can probably even see like his head and neck start to shift and move. People always focus on where I'm touching, but they'll let other stuff go. So if someone had neck pain and actually allowed me to work on them for a while, I'll do stuff like this, not because I don't want to immediately go into their neck, but because it just helps the superficial musculature to just soften and unwind by the time we get there. If I want to add in some upper body in addition to this, I'll usually do some arm traction and kind of toggle back and forth. Can even give him a little pull there, kind of move him around. Michael is dying in the background.
Why does that hamstring heat me so much? So why does that hamstring heat me so
I don't
much?
know. Should be nicer to it.
Then I'll usually comfortably just switch to the other side.
Trying to make it big and strong like the right one.
This gets to be a little bit like a sewing machine. In this case, my left foot is the one that does the main work. This foot just sits and allows the leg to roll back and forth.
Yep.
Also, if you're in a winter climate, I've got a table warmer down underneath the flat sheet, so the pad is heated from the ground up. If you work in a colder climate like up in Chicago, it's pretty necessary. It's usually difficult to get the floor at the right temperature, so I use one of these on top of the mat to be able to warm the client from the ground up. You're killing Michael.
He deserves it.
Right here is tight.
Yeah, I get it. What are you working on?
Kind of his gluteus medius.
Ooh, boy.
I know.
Pop.
Does that even feel good?
Oh, yeah.
What is it about the arm there?
Oh, no, I can feel it here.
And the shoulder blade,
Yeah, the
yeah.
shoulder blade, yeah. Even like trying to stand over.
And again, it may take me just a minute to come and answer any questions, but if you have any specifically, even if you have issues, questions about some specific area you want to see work on, I can grab somebody and show you. So now what I'm going to try to do is see if I can access a little bit of his lower back from his upper. So before we were using the feet, we were working down at one end to pull into the low back. Now we're starting at the other end, seeing if we can pull down here. How's that in your low back? Pretty good?
Yeah.
There you go. You can play with various angles. Just a movement through there, right? Let your head rest. There you go. In-breath. And exhale. Then also, because Adrian's having problems with his lumbar spine, like deep down and through, I'm going to do stuff to just generally mobilize like around his hips. When you put people in this little holster here, your hand's free, which means I can usually bring this outer leg up and kind of steer, so you're just leaning with your hips to be able to mobilize through here. I can resist with the other leg if I want a little deeper stretch in the hips. There we go. Right there. Too much? Just tender?
Not flexible. You always say that I'm like Pinocchio.
Pinocchio? You're gonna snap? Gonna break? Always tons of options. I'm not as interested in sequences as I am playing. Is it too much?
No, that's good. Just
Good
wanted
then.
to see how it
Just depth, right? Yeah, it just feels deep.
That's good.
Even though I'm again working with the leg, his hip positioning is working around his sacrum, and then the sacrum, the movement through the pelvis is affecting some of the structures around the lumbar spine where he's saying he's having a little discomfort. A lot of times I find people's facet joints in their lumbar spine are somehow tightening up. They sort of are rigid. It causes people a little bit of pain, it seems. Just gentle mobilization seems to help more than just compression. When I bring you over, like knee towards opposite shoulder, feels good. Like up through there. There we go. So this sort of knee to opposite shoulder. When you look at this in the Intro Thai workbook, that free workbook that's on my website, you can go download it if you haven't. When I'm going knee to opposite shoulder, I'm giving you a frame of reference or where to get started. When I go knee to opposite shoulder, it's more piriformis. But there's really any angle I want, anything from same shoulder to rolling over to the midline to the chest, to rolling over to piriformis, to rolling over down through the gluteus medius, tensor fascia lata. It really depends on where I'm feeling tension as I'm moving Adrian around. And sometimes just these gentle rolls like this are really, how does that feel?
Good.
It feels deep, right?
Yeah, all the way.
Yeah, and here's the thing, it's really, really light on my hands. His response is almost, I think, at his edge. Like you couldn't take much more than that, right?
No.
And the thing is, it doesn't hurt me. Even though it looks like I'm holding his leg, I'm really working deep down into his hips and really deep down into his pelvis, his lumbar spine.
I can feel it there.
Yeah,
Right.
just these little mobilizations. Repeating those. Hey John, how you doing?
Good, Robert. How are you doing?
Good. Good. You made it out.
I did.
His left hand, super tight.
Much like good barbecue, body work can't be rushed.
That's so deep.
It is. It's pretty Texan deep, right? If Aaron Franklin wants to come and have a comparison with body work and brisket, I'll be happy to meet with him and do that Facebook Live. Is it too much, Adrian?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I bring you down to here and do that, how's that? There we go. Just need a break on that hip. There we go.
Back to work.
How's that?
That's good.
Pretty good.
So what are you working on now?
Me?
Yeah.
During the day, I'm working on this, and then I have my own space.
Are you still at office work?
Gonna do the same to the opposite leg.
Guess what? Oh, you did? Thought that lady was with you. Cool. That's good.
What I'm doing is good.
You wanted to give me a hand break, you know, walking that far out.
Feels pretty good.
Does it feel quite as tight on this side?
Well, it just.
Feels like it's a little bit less.
That's true.
Yeah, it's a little bit less.
Just straight down.
And again, when I come up, it's knees. Hey. And the outer leg into my holster right here. And the way I'll instruct you is to have your hands free. We don't want you to overwork your hands. Trying to use your body as much as possible.
I do use my fingers too much. No
Yeah,
question.
me too.
I'll rotate your cuff there. There's a tricep.
I feel like I'm a little more careful these days.
A little more tricep or
What?
a little more tricep or is it rotator cuff?
That's everything. Cherries, tricep. Triceps always got. Do I still have the cupping mark there?
Maybe a little bit of the don'ts.
Oof.
This slow rocking for somebody who's tight,
Uh,
don't think this is less effective. You just have to work with somebody's comfort level to allow them to release slowly. Again, I don't think good body work can be rushed. That's why I kept extending the length of my sessions. I felt like I was getting more benefits for the client. And I didn't have to jackhammer.
Yeah.
So how many hours of work was this?
Mhm. Too many.
Yep.
I went from doing, like, I had 12 days off to a dead couple weeks at the everything, and then all of a sudden just like 6 hours solid of chair and table massage.
Mhm.
Mainly the chair massage. That's the brutal one, because I have to use my hands for everything.
Yeah, this side is much better. Yeah, than this one is like.
No way.
I could feel like clicking.
Sneaking in
I don't know what it is.
It's just tightness on that side.
Forearms are the best I got, but that's scratching on my shoulder, so.
Mhm.
Wow. Something new.
It is.
Thank you so much for doing all this. Can we just sacrifice ourselves to the students in your tabletop class and like
Of course you can.
work? Just like, we just need you each to spend 30 minutes.
Adrian was a bit tighter on this side,
Hands.
so I've rolled him over and I'm essentially getting my knee into position. I call this receiving the client, but I'm just propping him just right so that I can pull him onto my knee. You tell me, Adrian, is it too much? He was a little bit tighter when I rotated him this way. He was commenting on the fact that he heard like a little clicking in his hip. I think the musculature around the hip is just tighter on this side. So I wanted to put my knee in position where I can comfortably rock him onto me. Tons of different hand grips. You can play with these. It really depends on the size of the person you're working with in comparison to your body. How's that right there, Adrian?
That sounds good.
Is that too much?
No, that's good.
Do you prefer a little more towards the head?
Okay.
No, like outside.
Okay, so a little more lateral?
Yeah, lateral works.
So you tell me how far.
Yeah, that's good.
About there?
A little bit more.
I'll give you a little bit more towards the head, or you still want more lateral?
No, much easier when I'm sitting up.
There.
Yeah, that's good.
What about a little jostle? Yeah.
Yeah.
The knee is a much larger, bigger, broader structure than, say, an elbow. So usually people can take a knee a little bit more easily. It seems like using a larger structure helps them unwind and let go because it's not as pokey.
Usually use more on tricep.
That is a scientific term, pokey.
I don't know where to come down.
Now if I bring you more just lateral like this, how's that?
No, that sounds good.
Not too much?
No, no, I can take it.
And no more pressure than that?
I feel it more when you press this.
So you prefer up a little bit more?
No, I prefer lateral.
More lateral,
Yeah.
okay. Like that?
Yeah.
And there's a faint sensation of slowly doing this, but I'll take a couple minutes.
That's much better.
Yeah. Yeah, that was actually after the dog. That works.
I feel like I'd have to rotate my arm up.
There's all sorts of playfulness that comes along with this. You know, you can play with stuff like this. I'll just get feedback from Adrian as we do.
Okay.
No, it feels like.
Oh.
Any better or any worse?
A little bit, yeah.
Just different?
Yeah,
Yeah.
posterior pelvis.
Yeah, I'm leaning forward a little bit.
Yeah. Cause like as your knee rolls forward, it's like getting
More
the
pressure?
edge of the thing,
Yeah.
of the stuff.
Okay. Stable.
Yeah. Just
Yes.
a note, I am starting to get the tingling.
Notice it's easy on my hands.
Better. What's that? Oh, okay.
No, like totally fine, but just was like, oh, circulation.
Yeah, thumbs are significantly better than they were last year, though. Yeah.
Last year.
To transition him out, I'll probably bring him back down, just like we had the foot under before. Come out like this and then, oh yeah, it feels way better.
Yeah.
Way more mobile.
Yeah, your
More
forearms
soft.
burns.
Yeah.
Hey, you're losing your change. Oh God. I feel like I just melded with the mat. Is it spatula time?
It is.
Spatula. Out here, just kneel. Although, just curious. Anything here?
How's your back feel?
That's totally from.
Let's go ahead and have you just take your time. I want you to sit up and then stand up and walk around and just see how it feels.
It's all sore.
Now that we opened that up some.
Taller.
Just taller? Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, those would be expensive.
Yeah, Adrian was just saying he felt taller from that little bit. He's just walking around trying to get a feel. But a lot of people who are having problems with low back pain, I find, yeah, it is Danielle. That's Danielle Omo in the background. Danielle, if you want to give people your social media links or whatever, you can come up and say hello at some point if you want.
Okay.
I mean, you don't have to, but.
I know, I didn't think, I never said there's a
Oh,
social
okay.
security number.
No, not your social security number. I mean, you could give people your social security number, but that's probably.
Please don't steal my identity.
But a lot of people, when they're having problems with their low back, so around the sacrum or above, even above the sacrum, 9 times out of 10, I want to be able to rock and mobilize the pelvis from side to side, work on the gluteals around the pelvis and sacrum, because it tends to soften that musculature and allow the sacrum to kind of float and move in place. People usually can't quite believe that they, get that much range of motion like that rapidly, but I find it to be more work to put someone prone on a table, use an elbow down, like stripping their paraspinals. I don't find that works exceptionally well for low back pain. I get much more benefit by working the person's legs, their quads, their hamstrings, their gluteals, all the stuff around their hip, mobilizing their pelvis. That starts to get those rotatories and the small muscles in the lumbar spine to relax and release. And just like Adrian is walking around in the background, you can see him trying to feel like his range of motion is different. Feel better?
Yeah, my posture. is
Good.
much better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
9 times out of 10, it's just, how somebody feels. Did you guys have specific questions? I didn't see that anybody asked. I'm going to see if I can scroll back and through. Yeah, Janice, as I scroll back through the questions, I think what you were asking about is when I bring their leg up and I'm using my foot to press. What I tend to do is bring them past 90 degrees. Then when my foot makes contact, generally what I'm going to do is I'm going to lengthen my leg completely, okay? I'm going to lift my kneecap, I'm going to engage my quad, and here's what happens. I'm not pushing. What I'm doing is I'm lengthening my leg, and then I'm pulling them onto my foot. What I'm getting is a deep compression to the hamstrings with my foot, a big broad structure, but it also tends to rock down into their pelvis. I can usually only go about 3/4 of the way down before the angle starts to get off in a way, but I find that it helps people with low back pain because, again, it's rocking through the pelvis, but a lot of it is just trial and error. You feel your way through it as you work on people. I just find that people are having low back pain 9 times out of 10, if it's just a general case of low back pain, just discomfort, they sit in a chair all day, their hips and gluteals are really tight. They're not yoga practitioners, they're not mobilizing their hips. Yeah, they're not squatting, all of the stuff around their hips and everything is really tight. I usually find that's where a lot of low back pain is coming from. Of course, it's not always like that. Every case is different, but in general, day to day, you're a massage therapist. I get much more benefit out of working their legs, hips, gluteals, rocking their pelvis and sacrum. That is what accesses the low back. You'll also notice I spent very little time, if any, pressing on the back. A lot of the work I teach over time, you'll notice that I don't spend a lot of time pressing where they hurt. I'm grabbing something nearby and mobilizing through that area. Janice, if that didn't clarify on the question, you can ask again and I'll give you my best shot. Let's see. Who else is here? So how do I deal with a pinched nerve in the mid to upper back? The question is, what is a pinched nerve? And then from there, let's say somebody has an acute spot of pain. So Adrian, come lay down on the mat for me on your back. If I had someone that told me they had a pinched nerve, one, I'm just going to ask them questions to try to find out what I think that is. I'm going to ask them using palpation, like where along their spine they feel it. And I can give you a quick idea of how I'm going to work around that, Nicole, to figure out what I think might be going on. I always tell the clients I'm not Superman. I don't have x-ray vision. We don't have scans. I haven't talked to a physical therapist or a doctor who's done any scans on them to tell me exactly what's going on. They could have a bulge. They could have a herniation. They could have a host of issues. They could have a bone spur near a facet joint that's like pressing on a nerve. There's lots of options. But if the issue is soft tissue related, that's where we're really good at being able to help people. So let me answer this one and I'll scroll back. But if I was going to work on Adrian and he told me he had upper back pain, normally I wouldn't start him in this position because he'd be totally pissed off. And the reason he'd be pissed off is he'd say, listen, man, I have back pain. Why are you having me lay on my back? You're an idiot, right? But what I usually wind up doing is something like this, because if it's in his mid to upper back, I'm going to mobilize him gently and start to find out, okay, are you having any problems with the upper back at all? No? Then what I would do is I could place my fingers on the other hand along the spine and try to find out how high or how low along the spine, maybe the the thoracic paraspinals it was. And if I work through here and he's like, oh, right there. Now what I'm trying to do is trying to figure out what musculature is maybe tight and causing the issue. Now, if somebody had acute pain, it's more like specific, I would just ask Adrian, listen, does just this rocking, does that feel like that helps? If he tells me, yeah, wow, that actually feels really great, then I'm going to increase the intensity, maybe increase the frequency. I'm going to give him a little bit more movement and grab. You know, I'm going to see, well, okay, well, what happens if I twist him a little bit more? And he says, oh, man, it feels like it goes right up to that edge and then backs off. Then I'm trying to figure out what structure is it. Is it soft tissue? Is it just a tight muscle? If you've ever had a muscle cramp somewhere in your spine where it's just like, oh, you know, a catch, right? It can just be a single muscle like a rotatory that's basically twisting or turning one of your vertebrae in a way that's causing some discomfort. It's like if you had a catch, if your bicep contracted and wouldn't let go, it would cause pain. I sometimes find people have that along their spine. So I would just use that to try to find out what was going on. From there, a lot of it is movement, jostling. What does the client respond to? Is it compression to the specific area, meaning the fingers? Or is it the mobilization? Then I'm just going to continue to use techniques and kind of hone in to what I think that the issue might be. So if he's got an issue there, I would just ask him, do you like the pressure? Or do you like the mobilization? Or is it both? And he doesn't even have upper back pain, but he says he prefers the mobilization. From there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out and just start to mobilize in that way. Yeah. Now, when I lift your head, it feels comfortable?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's natural.
And then since I'm on this side, I can probably do the same almost from the opposite side. Now, you tell me, how's that in your upper back? Does it feel as good as the other side?
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. And then again, if I'm on the opposite side, I could just reach in and go, listen, are you still having issues like right in there? Because I'm just getting feedback from them about what they feel using just what I consider fairly basic, mobilization, compression techniques. Turn over on your front for me. I would probably do some of the same from the posterior. So if I found out, he was having problems in his thoracic, I can use a little cross fiber friction at the paraspinals. And depending on what the person feels, again, I have to mobilize them gently first. Like, how's that? Yeah, because he's got a little bit of tightness up here, but most people do. Just a little cross fiber friction right at the thoracic paraspinals. Right in there. In this case, I'm going to grab his shoulder. I'm going to lift his shoulder blade. Ask him, how's this feel on your upper back? Pretty good?
Yep.
Okay. Just use this to soften him first. I'm grabbing in front of the humerus just to lift his shoulder blade and mobilize, just to see if that makes him feel any better. When I'm accessing the shoulder blade, I'm using the shoulder blade now to access the thoracic vertebrae. I'm thinking about rhomboids, trapezius, the effect they have on the spine itself, and I'm trying to get his shoulder blade to just kind of float in place. In his case, I could reach over to the other side. I can see what happens if I work on this one. How's that?
Yeah, feels better.
Feels better? You like this one more? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Good.
Good. It's been a while.
Yeah, I didn't have a car for 2 months.
Ooh, that sucks.
The first
actually-
month was just to put the transmission in it. The second month was they didn't put the oil filter back in.
Yeah.
So when they put it in gear, it blew out my motor. So the
Ooh.
second month was me getting a free motor.
That's
Nice.
Good news is they ended up paying for all of the rental car fee because they didn't distinguish if the first month was mine.
So Adrian, this right here feels good?
Yeah.
Okay. So he likes that larger, more robust mobilization. So what I'm going to do, you can find this again in that intro workbook on my website. I'm going to put this arm in what I call kickstands. And then Adrian, can you turn your head to this side? I'm going to pull my knee in here and lift him up.
How easy is that jump?
Very
There we go.
striking.
How's that? Feels good? Now, I wouldn't necessarily do this to someone who is having that much of a problem. I would probably, maybe that would be their edge. I can ask them, hey, how's that? They could go, oh, that's right there, that's good, that's plenty. But in Adrian's case, he wants more, right?
Yeah.
Okay, big in breath for me. And my body's up, my body's up, my body's up, my body's up, my bottom goes to my heel. Hey! Opens up the facet joints, right? Yeah. We could call it a spinal manipulation, but it's not like a chiropractic adjustment, it's just mobilizing it. I'm now going to put this arm in kickstand, turning it to this side, and we're just going to repeat on the opposite side. This knee comes down along the hip. I'm going to lift him up. Hey, how's that? Good. That's good.
Just on the side of bone.
Big in breath for me.
Like even like on the
My
seat,
body's
it's
up.
like layers
My
of
body's up.
some fascia.
My body's up. I drop my bottom to my heel. He's a little bit tighter there.
Yeah.
How's that? Too much?
So I was gonna crush it.
There
It's
we
not
go.
good, yeah.
Tricep.
How's that? Pretty good. Now, we opened up both sides. So in his case, what I want to do is I'm going to come down right to the base of the gluteals, right where the hamstrings meet the gluteals. We opened one side, we opened the other side. Now we're going to open both. This is the classic stuff, like Cobra. People always freak out about this one. So I'm going to walk you through it, okay? If you're going to try this at home, you got to do this safely, you got to do it slowly, and you got to know what's going on. Grab hold. I'm going to have him grab my forearms. There we go. And here's what happens. I bring my body up, but listen to this really closely, okay? Take a big in-breath for me. As you squeeze your bottom, or as you exhale, squeeze your bottom.
Really, really tight.
And then there you go.
So
So I'm going to walk him through it again. He's got a good grip here. Big in-breath for me. As you exhale, squeeze your bottom. Now my body's up. My body's up. My bottom goes to my heels. Yeah.
It's just showing off.
How's that, Adrian? Feels okay? All right.
Yeah, I feel that into my armpit, on my shoulder.
Can you give him a little bit of jostle? Do you want a second pass of
That
that?
is where my problem
Okay.
is. I've been trying to look for it. Hands, face.
And grab hold for me. And again, listen to the dialogue, okay? My knees are right at the top of the hamstrings. Big in breath for me. As you exhale, squeeze your bottom.
So the
And look up.
left one's bothering me, but I know the right side's
Once I have him up, I can play a little bit side to side, back and forth, just depending on the person. There you go. How was that? Good. See if we had any other questions. So yeah, Nicole, I probably wouldn't go through all of that if I thought somebody had a pinched nerve, whatever that might be. But you could do the lighter versions, that mobilization, to try to reach around to the thoracic spine and figure out if one of those facet joints is closed and causing some issue, if they've just got tight muscles. If it's soft tissue, that's where we shine. If they actually have a bulge or herniation, what do we do? And I have speculations about that, but it's sometimes where we have to refer out, right? Let's see here. Actually, you were asking about Kedron, sorry. Kedron, you were asking whether I get cramped feet or toes. I don't very often, but occasionally if I've not warmed up, there's something about like a rapid contraction of my feet where I'll have like a little muscle contract for a second, but it only seems to last 3 to 5 seconds. It doesn't really go past that. I don't get inordinate like cramps in muscles, even though some people do. Yeah. And Kedron, it's good to see you on here. Kedron and I talk on Snapchat sometimes. And let me scroll back and see if you guys got any more. Hey Cheryl, how you doing? Hey Dreama. All right, you guys got any other questions for me? So yeah, just easy, fun work. Most of what I showed on Adrian is in the intro tie workbook on my website, so you can download that. So subscap is a bit more challenging. I spend a lot more time, even because of Danielle's influence, doing sideline work through serratus anterior, teres, and softening this lateral stuff before I get into subscap. I like to get into subscap from sideline position. Let me put Adrian in. Do you have more problems with your right side or your left?
I think on my left.
On your left? Okay.
That's
Um,
what they're tied to.
So do this. We'll put your head down here, and you're going to lay with your left side up.
Yeah. Just change my practice. I remember that for like 2 months, it was like the only move I did. And then I like forgot about it, and I kind of rediscovered it.
Put your hand for me. So usually if I was going to work on someone,
I added sideline.
I wouldn't just dive right into subscap, but I can give you a quick idea of what this looks like. I would usually come in and sit at the side so that I could use some compressive pressure here. Ooh, how's that? Oh yeah, oh yeah. And this is a big, broad forearm, big, soft stuff right through here. Not pointed; that would be way too sharp. And then 9 times out of 10, what'll happen is I'll just bring the person over, and I'll just start to get a feel for their shoulder blade, get a feel for the axillary border, the armpit border, along the shoulder blade, and then I bring them over. I can change my position if I want, but usually I can hold here. If I find their shoulder blade border, I can often start to rock here to start to get into subscap. Everybody's going to have a different degree of tightness. If I'm using the tips of my fingers, I can be a bit sharp. If you can, you kind of want to use the side of your hand. It really depends on the person you're working with and how much of an opening they have. If I go in with the arm at the side, there we go. So my fingers are in like this, and I'm just rocking with the other hand, pulling them onto my fingers. How's that working? Is that too much? If I want him to assist, what I'll do is I'll get my hand in place. Now, can you do this for me? Can you reach up and over? I want you to feel like you're pulling your shoulder blade up and over my fingers. There we go. And then come down and just let it rest for a second. There you go. I don't really care if it's active, passive, or somewhere in the middle. I just want to see if I can work under there. There we go. Everybody's range is going to be a bit different. I've also seen people come, instead of being in the posterior, once they've softened the person up, they come around, and I'll show you that real quick. Because I can lift his arm up here if he puts his arm on me. It means I can start to work with the thumb right through this border. He said for him this felt better, and 9 times out of 10 that's what I'm going to go for. I lifted his other arm just so I could put my body down.
Barely. Yeah.
That's why you need to have somebody do what is it, falling weight.
There we go.
We can do that if you want. Not great, but I think that you're small enough that I won't stop you. Like, I'm scared of doing Robert because he's like equal to me, so it's a little like.
Can use a thumb, like a big broad flat thumb, to be able to pull him on.
You're doing magic things to my aches and ailments. So I don't know.
I've also done this while somebody is supine with my feet, but I don't like the compressive force here quite as much. I don't think you have to be really mean and aggressive to subscap. I think you have to go slow and work on someone. I do like mat work because I've got all this additional play, leverage, and angle.
I wish a guy only maybe 6 months or so.
North.
Georgetown.
And from here, I can reach over, I can grab the shoulder blade and pull him onto my fingers there.
You're looking for
How's
this,
that?
right?
Good. It's not too pokey underneath the arm. Yeah. I'm really using the side of my pinky on this right hand, and then pulling him onto me. And in his case, I don't think he's having any extreme issues through here. If you want to use double thumbs, you can. I just want to caution you about wearing yourself out. Subscap is something that takes time, and it also encourages you to spend time teaching the person, if they're having a problem with subscap, how to work on themselves right in there. Oh. So subscapularis, it's underneath your scapula. Yeah, so it's between your rib cage, right in there. And I finally got in. You see how long it took? It took a little while, but I finally got the points of my thumbs around there to be able to jostle through. For somebody who is having a real problem, that might be inordinately tender. You'd probably want to start with something more broad. And when I'm teaching people how to work on themselves, typically what I do, and I don't think most people have extremely strong hands to do this, but you can have them put their head on a desk so they can rest. They'll let the one arm that they want to work on hang down, and they're going to use the side of their fingers to work into that area. So listen, it's been fun hanging out with you guys. Hopefully you're going to work with me and start a time and size jam in your area soon. If you have not subscribed to the Reboot Insiders Club, I Want to Reboot is the coupon code. You can go to the website. There's a big link in the store that'll send you over to Teachable. You can sign up there. There's probably 80 hours worth of video instruction there. We're continuing to upload each week, and I continue doing Facebook Lives, things like this to educate. It's been a pleasure working with you guys, and I hope you got something out of it. You have a good night. If you catch this after the fact, just write down below. I'm happy to answer your questions. You guys have a good one. We'll see you soon from Austin, Texas.